Alrighty, so now that we've learned some Bootstrap, I talked about in attendance, right? That where we're going and what you're going to do next. Let's actually do that step, which is you're going to find a Bootstrap template. Now I'm going to give you suggestions for how to move through this, but of course, because you're working on your local system. And what I mean by that is outside of our repos, and I'll be more specific in a minute. Right, but the idea is that you're going to find a Bootstrap template to use to create your project zero. Okay, so now that we're exposed to Bootstrap, let's actually take the next step, which is to go find something somebody built. Now, when we're looking, there's a couple things I'm going to recommend you keep in mind when you go through this. Okay, so the first thing is when you unzip. So hopefully you know I've covered in attendance about the whole unzipping concept because based on your operating system, this can be different. But do not do this step that you're going to do for just finding the template in your public or your private repos. It'll just get cluttered and you're actually going to end up doing this for your final selection in a minute. And when I say final, I want you to look around a little bit. And the part of the reason is these are heavy. They're full of extra files, and zipping it into your course repo will just create a mess. So let's not do that. Okay, so we won't do it until the next phase. So the other thing is uniqueness. Everyone needs to choose a different template. And again, I'll not again, but I will talk to you next about how to start looking. Okay, I'll give you some sites to suggest. Okay, so make sure before you select your final version, you've looked around. Luckily, there's not a lot of folks in this class, so looking around at the post should be pretty doable. Now, how to evaluate a template? Okay, and you might be going, Rio, I don't even know what that means. So let me just give you a quick preview and then we'll come back to this. So here's one of the links, right? So actually, let's go to this one. So in this case, Bootstrap made. So in here, they have all of these. And now what I'm going to give you is I'm going to give you a link to the free ones because the idea here is that you don't pay for something. So when you download this, you're going to get this template. And you can see now that it's actually responsive. It's actually something we've also talked about in attendance, the idea of a responsive site. You give definitely several options here that you could take a look at. Okay. So that's what I mean when I mean a template. And now I'm going to give you some criteria also for how to select it. We use Bootstrap 5.3 in our code along. So I want you to avoid anything using 3 or 4. Now, let me now be even more specific about what that means. Is that if I click on one of these, okay, it's going to tell me Bootstrap 0.38. Okay, so if it says Bootstrap, so just to go back here, if it says Bootstrap 3, okay, it's fine. Here, 5.3. But if it says Bootstrap 3, like the first major, so remember when we did Semver and we learned about the semantic versioning? Well, in this case, it's the major one. We don't want to be 3 or 4. Now, the minor one could be. And that's what I want you to know when you go to look for these templates. And that's why I gave you the example. This one would fall within that. And you can tell too that it actually is pretty current. And the thing is they give you a live demo, right? So you can actually look at the site. Now they do have a wrapper here, but you can see how it works. Okay. And I will have also, by this time in attendance, talked about that whole idea of a single page app. Now, this one looks like to me, let me go, yeah, this one actually looks like that single page idea, but there may be something that actually has multiple pages. I wouldn't know until I actually download it. Okay. So, in other words, I'm harping back on what was said in attendance. But let me come back here again. Okay, so now that you understand that concept, now you want to find two of the ones that you want to take a look at. Okay, and you're going to download them. Now, this is where I'm saying download them outside of our course repos. Okay, don't put it there, just so that you have a chance to actually look at them. So why am I having you do this? Well, part of it is a good template has a clear asset folder, which has JS, maybe CSS and JS, or some other kind of folder structure, right? But avoid template structures that provide SASS, which is a something we haven't even touched on because it's a more advanced topic in CSS, where you actually write CSS that you write higher level CSS, and then maybe npm build file. So if you see something like this or something that you wouldn't recognize that you've at least seen, like a CSS folder or a JavaScript file, again, we just barely looked at those with the Bootstrap, but you just want to look, right? And here's the idea of that multi-page that I had talked about in attendance, okay? So spend some time here, and now I'm going to show you the sites I just give you to start with. Now, if you find something outside of this, you're welcome to look at those as well. What I've done with these links here is I've actually already gone into them. And when you go to that link, I've actually already done, here's what I did is I went like to here, I went to free templates, and this is the link I gave you. Okay, so when I went here, I went down and I searched. I selected the criteria that was free in HTML, and that's the link I gave you. Just so hopefully there's no. But I think you would probably stop before you actually downloaded something because you want a free site. Okay, so those are the sites that you can definitely, I think, be safe with, but just be, and here's the thing, you're actually looking for something that appeals to you, appeals to your topic, is something you feel like. But until you start digging into the code, because once you select a template, part of this week's assignment is actually going to be for you to analyze the one that you pick, because that's part of updating something that is provided you as a starting point, is having that ability. Okay, so I've given you free ones. Here are the options. They've already been filtered down. Okay, so now let me show you, just FYI. So here, as an example, here's the site that ultimately I ended up on. Okay, so, or the template, sorry, which is that link, right? So when I'm providing the link in the discussion, right, that you will do in a minute, the two links you'll provide are both of the ones that you narrowed down your search to, and then tell us which one of those two is the one you're selecting and why. Okay, so just FYI. Now, on each of them, there is a download. Now, I've already done this part and I use Chrome. So in Chrome, I have this recent downloads. So I could actually just open this up. It probably is right here. And I'll pull this over. Okay, so in this case, right, it downloaded the zip. Now on a Mac, as soon as you open a zip file, you double click, it actually explodes out that folder. Now again, I've covered this in attendance, just the idea of how to unzip on your particular operating system, but on the Mac, it's very easy. On Windows, it's extract all. Oh, let me bring that back again. Okay, so what I would do here is I would go through here and I would say, oh, now because I see multiple HTML documents, I see that this actually has already had subpages built into it. And then what I could do is just double click on the index file, and I can tell by this I'm looking local. And then I could browse through here and I'd say, okay, about looks like a link. Now, how do I know? It's got this pound here, and it's actually an anchor link, okay? But I do happen to know, based on what I already looked at, that there are some individual pages here. Now, again, and how do I know it's a single page app? Is that if I click on something and it doesn't take me to a new page, right? That's a single page app. And that's why this is important, is like, oh, you know what? Actually, there is a starter page. And then where part of my work I would end up doing, and this is something we're going to be doing through the next week or so, is learning how to modify this to actually have it point to my individual pages. But I'm going a little farther than you need to. I'm just giving you some of the things you're going to want to look at. So I see I have this form, which I probably won't need. You won't need. I see assets. Okay, good. So I see SCSS here. Okay. But I can go read the text file, but it looks like that's actually not included, which is great. Let me go look at this CSS. They do provide a custom CSS, right? I do provide an HTML. So, sorry, the images. So I'd spend a little time looking through here. Let's see, what is the vendor? So these are some of the things that it may have implemented. Looks like they gave me the version of Bootstrap already down here, so I don't have to do that CDN reference. So how much time do you need to spend here, right? Enough to at least go, you know what? And this is where you could ask questions for sure. Come talk to me or talk to somebody like Gemini or ChatGPT and maybe ask them about something you don't know in there. Okay. So spend some time finding one that you feel like A would be pretty doable for you to modify. As a matter of fact, one thing I could do, right click here, is I could go look at the page source. Now, in this case, I'm looking at it a little differently, but I see some things that definitely we've learned about, right? We have a body, we have a head section. Wow, there's a lot of links here, and these are all those vendor files. I'm not going to bring those up right now. Okay. So what I did here, and you could do this, and now you can open this in VS Code without bringing it into your VS Code. But again, that's more than we'd want to know at this point. I could also right click and then the interface we've been playing with, maybe more something you're familiar with. And this is where you start to see the responsiveness. Okay, so that's your job for this assignment, is to go find something, right? Find two examples, look through all the links I've given you, download those zip files, unzip them, right? Maybe, and in this case, put a temporary folder that you place them. That way they're not just thrown out throughout your computer, because once we get to the next step, which is now actually placing that into our project zero, right? We'd probably want to delete this temporary stuff, but you're going to use this just for this step to give a little time to look at the templates, make sure it's unique. Okay, I gave you ways to look at this today. Now, and just to come back to this, I was showing you where I was clicking through here, and it looked like these were all anchor links. Okay, and again, I've gone over that in attendance, but just to show you here that they were anchor links. But the good news was when I looked at the files, there was actually some subpages already in there. Okay. Okay, so then on your submission, so you provide links to the two different that you reviewed to bring down to your finalists. Definitely do a few here, okay? The winner, which one you selected, and tell us, provide links again to claims so that others know which one it is. And why did this one win? Was it the visual style, the folder structure, the specific components that met your need? Okay. And then do a substantive reply to one of your classmates, right? So there might be something they see, right? Or let's see. So review your classmates. So click on their link, right? Does it show a good fit for their topic? It's maybe hard for you to know. Mention a green flag, something that you see, maybe a red flag, right? Right. And you can see in their winner, right? Give them feedback. Maybe you went and looked at it. It's like, hey, I didn't know about this thing, right? So I went and looked at your template, and this was something I didn't know about as well. So make that discussion substantive. All right. So I hope this is enjoyable. Hope you have a good time just looking at these and dreaming of the site that you're going to create next. All right. See you on the next one.